Hey guys, it's Julien, and today I'm going to be showing you how I made my new track, MT-89. So, if you haven't already heard this track, the link to it is at the top of the description. But today, I'm going to be giving you the official breakdown of how I made it. So, what we have here is the project file for MT-89. And if I hit play on this, you can hear some of the samples aren't loading, but that's okay. There we go. So, here's the track. We got everything all laid out here, and I'm going to break it down for you. So the first thing I want to talk to you about are the synths. And all of the synths that I have in this track are pretty much up here. And the thing about this track is we have a lot of different types of synths. So, for example, we have like this lead sound here. I believe this one? Yeah, so this is sort of like the main lead that you're hearing throughout the track. Here's the MIDI, pretty simple stuff. The way that I made this one was using a one-shot, actually. It's something I got off Splice, I think. Yeah, there we go. It was that one-shot. Just put it in here, tuned it, pretty simple stuff. Then I'm going through a guitar rig. Guitar rig is something I like to use a lot. And I'll kind of show you why here. Like, what we've got going on here is here's just the clean synth. You know, it sounds kind of cool, I guess. The melody definitely sounds cool. But when we add this guitar rig, you can hear it really brings it to life. So this is what I like using guitar rig for. If you have guitar rig and you go to these like effects here, there's like this animated tab. There's a ton of cool different presets in here. And I know what you're saying, oh god, presets. But hear me out. The thing about using a preset in this case is it's less about like, you know, just trying to take the easy way out and more about trying to find like sort of happy accidents. So like with this sound, for example, when I was making this, I wasn't just going through and just thinking like, okay, I want this kind of like reverb, you know, sort of effect where it's got like kind of weird modulation stuff going on. I honestly was just trying to see what would happen if I tried a bunch of different presets on this. And that's what I really like about using Guitar Rig, is that it has these really cool combinations of different sounds together that you can just put on your sounds and start playing around with them. So yeah, that was kind of like the process there. You can see I've got a little bit of OTT, got some Haas effects, got the LFO tool on there. You know, pretty standard stuff. We have this other synth here. This one sort of like the main chord stab that you hear. This one is also just a one shot. I believe this is from... Yeah, so it's like some kind of sample pack loop that I found. And I just took that one chord, and then you can see we just are going like... kind of over and over on it. And this one also has some guitar rig on it. It's got this like granular sparkle. That's what it sounds like, dry. So again, like just playing around with these different sounds, like you can really find some cool stuff. And like these, both of the synths I've shown you so far are just audio. Like it's literally just me putting a sample from a sample pack into a sampler and playing with it. But because I know how to kind of play around with the sounds and make them my own, like it matters. Like basically what I'm saying here is it doesn't really matter like what you're starting with, and it matters more like your process with it. Like of course, if you take a bunch of loops from a dubstep sample pack and just put them together and make a dubstep song, it's gonna sound like dubstep. But if you take the loops from the dubstep sample pack and make like an R&B beat out of them, or I don't know, like chop them up and make like a house song out of them or something, you know, they're not gonna sound like a dubstep sample pack anymore. It's gonna sound like you. So yeah, I mean, we have some other synths in here that aren't made using samples. Like I have this little thing. There we go. It's like this little bell. You know, that's made using the CMI Fairlight. Pretty simple stuff from Arturia. I have this thing, which is started... actually from a preset from Production Music Live. Shout out Production Music Live. Hello, dudes, if you're watching this. But, yeah, you can see with this one, like, same thing. I started with a preset. I think I played around with the envelopes a bit. And also with the actual synth sound. But then you can see, like, with this one, we've got, like, the automation, which is really bringing it to life. I'll show you the MIDI on this one as well. You know, it's pretty simple. It's just doing this, like, ARP that just keeps going over and over. We have, like, you know, little stuff like that. Yeah, it's not that complicated. Like, the reason why I like breaking down these tracks for you guys is because not just to like flex and be like, oh, here's my project file. You know, it's so cool. Look at all the cool synth sounds I made. But like, I want to show you guys like what really goes into it. Like, I feel like there's this weird disconnect with like music education, I guess you could say, or like really just music tutorials, right? Where it's like, if I'm showing you an 8-bar loop all the time, you know, there's such a difference between like working with an 8-bar loop and like how you approach that and how you do that, and like making an actual song. Like, I'm talking about this so differently from the way I'd be talking about an 8-bar loop that I made for you guys. So yeah, I just feel like it really helps. But yeah, that's a synth there. You can see there's like a ton of processing on this. I've got my own stuff on here. I've got like, yeah, a bunch of stuff. I really like this GW Mix-Centric plugin from Waves. This is one I use a lot. I'll show you. Like, here's without it. And then with it, you can hear it gives it like that extra little like 10% of kind of polish on top. But yeah, there's that synth lead. Again, not really too crazy. You can see something I do here also is like whenever I have a MIDI clip where it's got like a different pattern than like what everything else is doing, I change the color. Like this, for example. Like that little part. I have that one is green. I have this one is blue. This one is like blue green. But yeah, like it definitely helps there. Another thing I can show you here are the drones. I have two going on in here. We have this one, which just plays throughout the whole track, basically. And then this one, which just kind of comes in for like the second half. And yeah, both of these are made using Contact. I'll show you. It's this analog strings from Output, I believe, are the people who make this. But it's a really, really good bank. And what I'll typically, or a good sound bank, I should say. But typically what I'll do, I'll wait till this loads. But typically what we'll do is, okay, yeah, there you go. You can see. Pretty simple stuff. But then what I'll do is I'll have this just kind of going throughout the whole track. But then you can see, like, if we look at the filter automation here, you know, there are some parts where, like, you're barely hearing it. So it really just becomes part of the background there. Like, it's not actually just playing full force the whole time, but it's kind of coming in and out. And it's just a nice way to make it a little bit more smooth and a little bit more, like, alive, because you know, it's not just doing the same thing the whole time. This is the same thing as with the ARP. Like I was saying, like the filter automation there is really what's bringing that to life. You know, yeah, it's a really, really good way to do that. Like you would just never, for one, I mean, you probably wouldn't think it's a preset if you hear the sound that's like changing so much. But also, like, it really, you know, it really makes the track feel like it has life. Like it's not just this thing is, you know, playing for a couple seconds and then turning off. It's like it plays for a couple seconds and then it's kind of like fading out, but it's still sort of in there. You're still feeling it. You know, it's just giving so much more life to the track. So yeah, those are all the synths. The other thing I want to show you is the drums. So basically, the way I have this set up here, and the way I set up most of my project files, is I will have the drums kind of like in their own sort of like group, and then I'll have the kick and the bass in their own group, because the kick and the bass, I really like the low end of like any kind of track like this. Like you can hear, if I turn off the kick and the bass, that's it. That's all the low end right there. So you definitely like, I like to just kind of put those in a separate group from the drums. But yeah, I have all the drums in a bus here. You can see like I have them all frozen, but you can see like pretty simple stuff. Just some drum samples. On the group, I have a few things you can see. I have a low-pass filter, which kind of is closing and opening at different times. I have this Aphex Vintage Exciter, and I have the drum bus, and I also have CLA 76. These are just kind of fattening the drums up, like, and kind of giving them more texture. Like, here's without these. And then with them. So you can hear big difference there. And also, yeah, like, this is the kind of stuff that I think is really important. Like, with drums, you know, if your drums are too dry, it's just going to ruin the whole track. So, like, having stuff like this Vintage Exciter, I really like this. Those of you that watch my streams know I love that. Drum bus, you guys know. Big drum bus fan here. And then the CLA 76 is just, like, a really good compressor. Just kind of compressing it a little bit. But you really need these things. Like, you don't want to just use drum samples, like, raw. Like, the way I like to think of it is, like, you get your drum samples, and then you're kind of, like, bringing them into the track. You know, it's like you have to kind of pull them from the sample pack, and then this processing is what brings them into the track. And also having stuff like this, I feel like just kind of helps to glue them together. Like, it makes everything feel a lot more cohesive because you're putting the same effects on everything at the same time, basically. So it's all going to kind of have a similar texture there. But yeah, I'll also show you the kick. Here's the kick. Just like a pretty punchy kick. You can see I have a few effects on here. Here's what it sounds like dry. And then with all the effects. So similar to just like the drum bus, very, very important to process your kick as well. And like, yeah, not just take like a dry sample. I'll also show you the bass while we're at it. So here's the bass. It's basically 3 layers, or 2 layers actually. That one's muted. So we have like this thing, which is just a one shot, and then this thing. Which is like a simple sub. So yeah, pretty standard stuff. Here's the bass line. It's kind of playing throughout the track. You can see it's just going to C sharp, and then to A, and then A up top, and then F sharp. It's really not that complicated. With the bass, you know, yeah, I mean, obviously we just kind of have like a mid-range bass. And then a sub underneath it for low. And definitely important, like if you're going to use a one-shot for the bass, you definitely want to have that sub underneath it. And I also have a few effects on here. You can see, like, we have this max bass here, and I've got LFO tool sidechaining that, or giving it the kind of like sidechain sound. I also have the EQ8. Kind of bringing out that like punchy part in the bass. And yeah, this one is not that crazy either. I mean, yeah, really simple stuff. I'm trying, like, this is how easy this is. Like, I'm sitting here, like, having a hard time trying to find, like, complicated things to show you. Like, I don't know. It's not that hard to make a song, I feel like. Like, I mean, it's not that hard to make a song. It's hard to make a very, very good song. But, like, as far as the actual techniques that I feel like people, you know, say they don't know, or they don't, like, you know, they feel like it's, like, hard to kind of get a grasp on. Like, you can see this is all really simple stuff. It's just a matter of doing it in the most clean and sort of, like, straightforward way possible. And then I have the kick and the bass in a group, like I said. I'll show you. Like I was saying, here's what it sounds like with no processing. And then with all of it. So that's really, really important, again, to just make that kick and that bass really have, like, that power in the track. You know, with dance music, your kick and your bass really need to have a lot of impact and strength in your mix. And if you don't do this kind of stuff to kind of glue them together, it's going to be too weak, and it's not going to sound good, and no labels are going to want to sign your tracks. So I have a CLA 76 here, just kind of compressing them together. Got a 1 knob fatter as well, fattening everything up. And then I have a dynamic tube on there. Just kind of adding that extra little bit of, like, grit. And I also like doing this because when you distort things together, like, I can show you this a little bit easier with a saturator. When you distort things together, but do this, like, really extremely, you can hear what it's doing is it's basically just sort of like squashing these things together. Like, it's kind of, you know, gluing them together and just turning them more and more into one instrument as you turn up the distortion, which obviously, you know, is way too much. But if you do this a lot less using the dynamic tube on a more, I'll say, like, kind of conservative setting here, you know, you can kind of glue them together a little bit more without messing up the, without messing it up so much. But you're getting that same kind of like gluing together effect, just not as strong. So yeah, I'll also show you the vocals here. I have like this little vocal sample when it loads. I think I got this from Splice. I'll show the original. Yeah, so I took that, just kind of brought it in here. You can see one thing that we have going on here is I have this little altar boy. So I have it auto-tuned first. Pretty simple stuff, just kind of like making sure it's going to be in key. Then I have little altar boy here. This is something, if you watch my streams, you know I use this a lot. Really, really good for like vocal effects. Basically, it's a Foreman shifter and a pitch shifter. And what I'm doing here is I'm automating the Foreman, so you can hear. The texture of the vocals, it's constantly changing. That's what this is doing. It's just basically giving it, you know, some movement and kind of making it a little bit like it's changing more, because these vocals are really just ad-libs. It's just someone going, so you kind of have to add something to that to make it a little bit more interesting, I feel like. So that's kind of what's going on there. I also have this little guitar rig here. I like to use this tape echo in here. It's a really nice emulation of the Roland Space Echo, if you know what that is. And you can see I'm automating the feedback on that. Let me see if I can find. So yeah, that's just kind of happening there. I also have this little vocal here. which is just filtered. You can see I have those in a group. Got a few effects on there. We got GW Mix Centric, a little bit of Aphex Vintage Exciter. And yeah, the only other thing that's in here is like the effects. I have all the effects in a group. This is something I will talk about also is like bussing. Like you can see with all of the like similar instruments here, like in this case, the drone bus or the synth bus or like the low end bus or the vocal bus or the drum bus. I have all of the similar sounds in groups and I'm bussing them. That's what bussing is. If you ever hear people talk about bussing in music production. So basically, we're just kind of sending all these similar sounds to the same effects. Like the drum bus, I have like the Aphex Vintage Exciter and the drum bus. On the synth bus, I have like all three of these. Like again, we're just kind of like putting these things all together and kind of making them more cohesive. I think this is really, really important. Like this is one of those things that can be kind of hard to figure out if you're a beginner. But if you feel like your tracks aren't sounding like professional, I definitely recommend trying this. Again, just get all the similar sounds, put them in groups, and then process those groups together. And yeah, that is pretty much it. That is how I made MT-89. Like I said, you know, I want to kind of like demystify the process a little bit and make it a little bit more simple and more straightforward to you guys. So with that, that's it for this one. Thank you very much, guys. As always, make sure to like this video, as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. You can check out MT-89 in the description. If you haven't already, go check it out. Put it in your Spotify playlist. Play it on Spotify, share it to your friends, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody. And I will see you tomorrow with another video.